Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now, I know this is a little bit different, a little bit raw, bit back to basics, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different. But anyway, in today, well, this will be yesterday, but in yesterday's Westminster Hall, they did a debate on asylum seekers, employment, and the cost of living crisis. And up you will see something you will not hear very often. This is just a joy to behold. This is Christian Wakeford. Now, if I remember rightly, MP for Very North is he crossed over from the Conservatives to the Labour Party, so a bit of controversy all then. Now we can all have the ins and outs of why he did it, but just concentrate on this speech. It's an absolute fantastic speech, and you'll be shocked with what you hear. Enjoy.
My constituent Mary had to flee her home country of Kenya due to fear of persecution and sought asylum in the UK in 2017. I met with Mary in August of this year and learned about her story and the barriers that she faced since coming to the UK, one of which was the barrier of being able to work. Back in August, she told me that I was made to understand that I did not have a right to work as a person seeking asylum. This was devastating for me, as I knew I had some transferable skills that I could use to build my life and contribute to society. Not being able to work really affected my mental health. It felt demeaning for me, especially being a parent, and not being able to fully provide for my child. Most days I was confined in the house, dealing with devastation and a lot of stress. There were days my daughter had to miss school when it was non-uniform days. Mahmood came to the UK in 2020, fearing for his life. He was forced to leave behind his wife and his young son. Mahmood was a civil servant and campaigner in Sierra Leone. He loved his job, but more importantly, he loved the fact he was advocating for others. But his life was sent into a spiral when the authorities began persecuting him. He said that going hungry brings me some comfort. The money that could pay for my food has paid for the food that my family is eating. My little son
debate today. While inflation has pushed the cost of energy and food to a 40-year high, asylum support allowance has risen by just 13 pence from last year. Does the honourable member share my concern that the Home Office have not adequately considered the harm done when refugees can't afford the very basics, like 3 meals a day?
Christian Wakeford.
I thank the Honourable Lady for the intervention. I was just coming on to that point, but I completely and wholeheartedly agree. As Mahmood was saying, going hungry brings him some comfort. The money that could pay for his food has meant that his little son will not go to bed hungry, and that's the only comfort that it brings him. He used to spend £10 a week on his weekly grocery shop, but now costs increasing and making this impossible. These are
So much for the old tired rhetoric of these people are getting free meals and 5-star hotels with jacuzzis and all that, and while at the same time stealing food from their mouths, and while at the same time claiming benefits and stealing our jobs.
These are not one-off instances, Mr. Chairman. This is the life of an asylum seeker in a cost of living crisis. Close to 18 months ago, I was in a debate on the Nationality and Borders Bill. In that debate, I said that asylum seekers travel through many safe countries and that they essentially have a shopping trolley as to what they want as economic migrants. And I want to go on record here, Mr. Chairman, and say that it's important to admit that when you are wrong. And following my meetings with Mary and others, it showed me that I was wrong, and I'm sorry for that. Every week government...
That takes guts in it. When was the last time you heard a politician say that? Especially in this extreme Brexit Tory government as well. Ever.
Uses scapegoats, and as we continue to see even yesterday with the Prime Minister's statement, asylum seekers have been one off with this government for far too long. I'm sorry for playing my part in that narrative as well. These people aren't arbitrary numbers for newspaper editors to froth at the mouth about or to stoke the fire of intolerance. They're human beings, and we all need to remember this. They've had their hopes and their dreams for them and their children. They've had them dashed, but they still have that hope. They want a good education. They want to live life without fear or persecution. But more importantly, they need our help and assistance. whether that persecution is for a religious or a political belief, due to war, or for the sexuality of the person that they love. When I've met with asylum seekers, one thing has always been constant, which is the need for dignity, Mr. Chairman. After all they've been through, and I'm sure we can all agree that having a purpose through work brings dignity. People seeking asylum in the UK are effectively prohibited from working and are forced to rely on just £5.84 a day, whilst they wait for a decision to be reached on their asylum claim. And during the cost of living crisis, this small sum means it's impossible to cover. And as the Honourable Lady was saying, an increase of just 13p in a year seems miserly in the crisis that we are facing as a nation. You have fled persecution, you're potentially fearing for your life, taking on a potential near-death experience, crossing dangerous waters in overflowing dinghies with both your children, and you get to your destination with all avenues blocked. £5.84, Mr. Chairman. Not even 2 cups of coffee, not enough to feed or clothe yourself or your children, travel to appointments, buy toiletries, buy sanitary products. It just isn't feasible, and it just isn't fair.
It's a great example, isn't it? Not even enough to buy 2 cups of coffee, especially at Costa Coffee and places like that. Great example, isn't it?
Immigration rules dictate that people can only apply to work after they've been waiting for a decision on their asylum claim for over a year. And there are many reasons why lifting the ban on asylum workers working in the UK is the right thing to do. Forcing people fleeing persecution to spend months of their life in poverty is inhumane, and it has a detrimental impact on their physical, but more importantly, their mental health as well. Enabling people to work provides them with the human dignity of being able to support themselves and their families whilst they build a route out of poverty. It just isn't moral or ethical reasons why this would be the right thing to do. Lifting the ban also provides considerable fiscal benefits for the country. Without the opportunity to work, many people seeking asylum are forced into unsafe and exploitative practices, including forced labour. Research by the OECD found that a lack of permission to work can lead some people seeking asylum to work unlawfully, and this type of work can lead to situations of exploitation and indeed modern slavery, as they do not have access to health and safety measures or even regulatory employment practices. The Lift the Ban Coalition estimates that reform of this policy could save the UK economy more than £333 million a year. So 50% of people who've waited more than 6 months for a decision on their initial asylum application were able to work full-time on the national average wage. The government would receive almost £249 million just from their tax and national insurance contributions alone. If they no longer require subsistence support, but retain support for accommodation, the government would save an additional £84 million. By the end of 2022, the Treasury will have wasted nearly £1 billion across 10 years as a result of banning people seeking asylum from working. Lifting the ban would also bring us into line with other countries around the world. So this restrictive approach that the UK takes on the right to work makes it an international outlier, Mr. Chairman. In comparable countries across Europe and in Australia, people are given an opportunity to support themselves at an earlier stage with fewer restrictions. In France and Spain, it's a 6-month wait, and in Germany, it's a 3-month wait. Employment figures continue to show tightness in the labour market, with the CBI identifying that 3/4 of businesses have been hit by labour shortages. The British Chambers of Commerce has now suggested a reform of the shortage occupation list is required to allow sectors facing urgent demand for skills to get what they need. Prohibiting thousands of people who have necessary skills to fill vacancies in industry desperately in need of workers makes absolutely no sense for business, and it makes no sense for this country either, Mr. Chairman. But don't just listen to me on this. The Lift the Ban Coalition brings together almost 270 members, including the TUC, Unison and Oxfam, as well as those famous lefties at the CBI, Bright Blue and the Adam Smith Institute. Adding to that, the government's own Migration Advisory Committee released their annual report on Monday. They found that asylum seekers being banned from working results in them entering the informal economy on poorer wages conditions, leaving them open to exploitation. It also adds that we are recommending that the government review their policy more generally on allowing asylum seekers to work. It isn't just businesses either. The public support it, Mr. Chairman. YouGov polled YouGov polling carried out in March 2022 found 81% of the population support the right to work being granted after someone has waited 6 months. According to Refugee Action, there are now 97,717 people seeking asylum who have waited more than 6 months for an initial decision on their application, a 6-fold increase from 5 years ago. We've heard many times about an asylum system that is broken. These figures alone show that to be the case. Just over 3/4, so 77%, Mr. Chairman, of these will eventually have their asylum claims accepted. So the cost of living crisis has illuminated the ongoing dangers and frustrations that these restrictive rules impose. Soaring food and energy prices have pushed inflation to a 40-year high, yet the rate of asylum support allowance has risen by just 13 pence since 2021. Without the option to support themselves and their families through work, many people seeking asylum experience poverty, destitution, homelessness, and the development of serious physical and mental health issues. The Conservative mantra has always been that the best route out of poverty is through work. So why must asylum seekers not be offered that same route and be left in destitution? Labour support asylum seekers' right to work being granted after someone has waited for 6 months. And the Immigration Minister himself admitted recently that whilst he did not think the policy should change due to pull factor concerns, he did recognise that there are good arguments to both sides of the debate. The government's defence on this policy is that enabling asylum seekers to work would act as a pull factor, and that wider economic policy schemes could be seriously undermined if migrants were able to bypass work visa rules by lodging unfounded asylum claims in the UK. Well, that falls flat when their own Home Office leaked report showed that permission to work is not a pull factor. This report revealed that many people seeking asylum do not have previous understanding of welfare policies or access to provisions before they come to a country, and migrants have little knowledge of the current economic conditions in destination countries. Equally, the argument that economic migrants would make false claims in order to access the labour market is not a strong line of defence, Mr. Chairman. The proposal of a 6-month waiting period would provide a strong safeguard against this. It's implausible that somebody would bring themselves to the attention of the authorities on the basis that there might be a chance that their asylum application will not be decided within 6 months. Again, this entire notion is just implausible. In reality, most people seeking asylum do not have a choice about the country to which they flee, and many of those that have come to the UK have done so because of cultural, family or community connections. In closing, I'd like to pay particular thanks to Refugee Action for all the important work that they do in supporting asylum seekers. They've been an invaluable source of information, but more importantly, of education to me, Mr. Chairman. As well as World Jewish Relief, who set up their STEP programme in 2016, which helps refugees gain language skills, gain qualifications and training, as well as providing one-to-one assistance in CV writing and interview skills. We need an asylum system based on compassion, and I hope the Minister has listened closely to the body of supportive evidence today and takes heed. As human beings, we all need support at some point, so please don't leave these people behind.
It just ticked all the boxes, didn't it? I thought it was just absolutely brilliant. And that takes guts. And when was the last time you saw an MP say stuff like that? Well, I'm happy to fess up and say, yeah, I was part of that brigade and I was wrong. It just gives me up, because it just shows you that, well, for me, that's what Parliament is there for. And I wholeheartedly, I'd go even further, maybe 3 months. There's the examples that he pulled out where he said that they want to work. Of course they do. Do you think they're going to travel halfway around the world, lay on the backsides and £5 something a week? Who do that? Doesn't make sense, does it? But anyway, I'll leave the video here and do hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I shall bid you farewell and take care.